What's up, traders? It's Mark Sebastian, your only option. On Monday, the S&P closed up 3 points, and the Qs closed barely down. But there's still a lot to unpack based on what we saw on Monday. I'm going to break down what we're seeing in the bond market, what's happening with VIX, and how it all relates to the S&P 500. I'm going to lay out what major economic events we have this week, preview a little earnings, and then I'll tell you what trade I'm doing right now. So with that, let's dig in. All right, everybody. So the S&P managed another up day, only up 3 points. Not a huge range for where we've been. At the lows, we were down over 50 points, and our highs, we were over 550. We closed the day at 55.28, so decent range, but more in line with a normal VIX. The Dow Jones, kind of similar, looked a little stronger on Friday. The Qs did close slightly down. The Mag 7 were soft on Monday. Everything else pretty good, but the Mag 7 themselves pretty soft. Apple closing barely up, Amazon down, Google down a little bit, Meta up a touch, Microsoft down a touch. So it was kind of a mixed bag on the Mag 7, but all told, they were down a little bit. I believe the worst behaved of that group was Tesla, which had a really crazy range again. So we got some big ranges. We've made a really nice run. It's not a terrible thing for us to take a pause, but there are still some positive, constructive things coming out of the market. For starters, bonds. Remember, if you're not watching the bond market, you're not watching the stock market. We have recovered all the way past where we were on April 8th. Let's see us get to where we were prior to the 7th, and now we're really in business. The bond market will be back. VIX made some, closed the day up 30 cents. Remember, we're coming on a Monday. There's this thing called weekend effect. So for all intents and purposes, VIX was down about 0.4% on Monday, and our futures term. Remember, I've been telling you, I want the VIX below 30, done. And I want this curve to flatten up. And it has. May is now just 38 basis points above June, and June and July are essentially flat. If the market is up on Tuesday, it is entirely possible that this curve completely flattens up or even enters a contango. Again, I think the VIX, this green line, will stay above the curve for a little bit, but you could see the curve normalize this week, which would mean May is below June, June is below July, July is below August. So the curve would go from like this to like that. Like this to like that. So think about it that way. But that is, the VIX had a really constructive day. And then last but not least is our good friend, the Russell 2000, closed up 42 basis points, about 82 cents. It was the strongest performer of the day on Monday. We love to see the Russell 2000 lead. Now, we've got a ton of economic reports coming up this week, ISM, PCE, non-farm payrolls, but I believe the big event is these 4 big earnings we have: Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, and Apple. Apple and Amazon are on Thursday. Microsoft and Meta are on Wednesday. Those are going to be the 2 days to watch. They're going to really dictate where the NASDAQ goes, and so you got to keep an eye out. The big one I'm watching, the one that I think could actually be a real problem, is Apple. Biggest company in the world, still worth $3 trillion. Growth isn't great. Their earnings may be, but their growth is just not there. They're currently underpricing the move to be less than the median. We have not really been moving 4% lately. We've had, a couple of bigger movers, but it has not moved. And Apple's been reporting bad earnings, and it's just so widely held that people are like, okay, it's down a little bit, I'll buy some just to put in my portfolio. I don't think you have that this time around with earnings. I'm not sure the market's going to tolerate bad earnings from Apple. So this is the one I'm worried about. The other big event for the week, of course, is non-farm payrolls. And looking ahead to May 2nd, the stock market is pricing in about, call it about a 125-point move by the end of the week, 126-point move by the end of the week. Good for a little over 2%. Makes sense. That's about what I would think the market should priced in. So option prices seem to be normal. All right. Now, some under the radar earnings I'm keeping an eye on. SoFi reports Tuesday morning. This is going to be an interesting one. And then the other thing I'm watching closely is silver. We saw a huge jump in option flow on Monday, and I want to show you this. SLV traded about double its normal volume, and all of it was in calls. SLV did double its normal call trading and about in line with puts. Super active day, 5 calls for every put bought. That is a huge deal. Watch silver. It might be getting ready to pop. All right, so what is the trade I'm in right now? I am long. I own the IWM May 5th 195 call. I believe IWM is going to be $200 by Friday. I like the market this week. Now, obviously, those earnings Wednesday and Thursday could throw a wrench. But at least through tomorrow, I like the market. Through Tuesday, I like the market higher. And probably through Wednesday until we hit those earnings. So I think, we've got a good 2 days of potential upside here. And that is what I'm watching. All right, folks, there you have it. There are still a couple of slots open in Alicia's mini masterclass. She's going to show you everything you need to know about pitchforks and candles. You can click the link here to join. There also may be a slot or two left in my masterclass. You can call my team, 888-872-3301 to join. If you want Alicia's masterclass, though, click the link in this email. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, ask me a question, and I will go through it. All right, everybody. I'm Mark Sebastian. I am your only option. Have a good one.